Hello and welcome to the next episode of Let's Talk Brand, the first in Poland series of video interviews with world-class branding experts. And today I'm honored to interview Stephen Houraghan, brand strategist, consultant, the CEO and the founder of Brand Master Academy, and the host of one of my favorite podcasts, the Brand Master Podcast. Stephen has a background in business and finance, but after gaining further qualification in both design and marketing, which he combined with his business experience, he created the iconic Fox agency, providing brand strategy and creative service for global clients using his proprietary brand building systems. Stephen has shared his ideas on branding and marketing for publications such as HubSpot, Marketo, Creative Blog, and Design Taxi, and has appeared on industry podcasts such as Just Branding, which is my second favorite, or the first favorite, or both are my favorite. Brand Design Matters, Logo Geek, and Brand Tuned. Today, he shares these proprietary systems, knowledge, and experience in business branding and marketing to tens of thousands of students and followers through the Brand Master Academy programs mentioned at the beginning, the Brand Master podcast, the Academy YouTube channel, and the growing brand strategy community. I do hope that you will enjoy listening to my conversation with Stephen Houraghan. Okay, hello, Stephen. Welcome to the podcast, and actually, maybe I should say welcome to Poland.
Thank you so much, Łukasz. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored to be part of your podcast, part of what you're doing to bring branding to Poland. So I'm delighted to be here.
Okay, wonderful. Have you ever been to Poland, or have you ever worked for a company based in Poland?
No, I haven't. I was, as we were just chatting offline there, I've recently moved from Australia to France, and I have a long list of places that I want to visit now that it's more accessible to me, and Poland is definitely on that list. So Poland and Hungary, I don't know why these two kind of fascinate me. But they're definitely high up there on the list. So no doubt I'll get there before too long.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sure that you can answer all of my questions by sending us to one of the hundreds of videos you have already created. But
I hope so. I hope so.
I really wonder how many pieces of video content you've already created, because
I have no idea. Just on YouTube alone, there are, I don't know, over 200 videos. My programs, there are hundreds and hundreds more. My social posts, there are maybe thousands. My articles, there are hundreds. I love branding. It's a passion, and that's why creating content for me just comes naturally. So I really enjoy it.
Okay, it's a lot. It's thousands. I see your content every day, actually. After I started following you, so
yeah,
something new every day.
I can be obsessive like that.
And okay, so one of the idea behind this podcast or videocast and my press interviews is the presentation of the best and more inspiring experts, so that the Polish entrepreneurs, marketers, and students know where to look for knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with your professional background, because you've shifted from business and finance to design and marketing.
Yeah,
and
that's
now, I guess, to consulting and teaching. And so
yeah, that's right. Yeah, my background traditionally is in finance and economics. That's what I studied in university, and I became a stock and options advisor. I was a licensed trader, and what I found, I'm very much into self-development. I like to read books all the time. I like to get better at what I'm doing. But I found with finance and economics, the books I was reading, they did not excite me at all. They were boring, they were hard to read, and I knew that long term, if I didn't love doing what I was doing, I was never going to be really good at it. So I had the opportunity then to change careers after the GFC. It was a case of, do I really want to continue down this road, or is now a good time to do something different? So branding is something that I had always been interested in, and I went into branding via design. So I went back to college. I trained in design, and I went into the agency world, and I started to climb up in the agency world as a designer. And before long, I started to get work on the side. I started to freelance, and I was getting a lot of referrals, and it came to the point where my referrals were so fluid and consistent, that I thought, it's time to kind of go all in on this, be my own boss as it was, and start my own business. So that's what I did, but I did it at a strange time. I did it at a time where the market was shifting, and I noticed this within the first 2 years of being a freelancer. The rates that I was charging in the beginning, they started to change. People's customers' expectations of what they should be paying for brand design started to change, because you had the likes of Odesk and freelancer.com, and my prospects were going and getting the work that I was doing for them done cheaper online. And it kind of made me question what I was doing, why I was doing it, because to give my customers the reason that my processes were more detailed wasn't a compelling enough reason for them to pay me more than they were paying somebody else. So I started to look into how I could make myself different. If I'm going to be in this market, I'm competing with all these other players, and I cannot compete on price. Well, where can I compete? And this opened up what differentiation strategy, which opened up into positioning. And that just opened up this world into brand strategy and everything that brand strategy was. And very quickly, I realized that there was this massive gap and gulf in education and knowledge in and around branding, because there I was providing branding services, yet I quickly learned that I had very, very little understanding prior to what real branding actually was. And I know that my customers who were coming to me looking for branding services also had very, very little knowledge as to what branding was. So essentially, you had the blind leading the blind. You had, the service provider selling branding services, not knowing what real branding was, leading the entrepreneurs who wanted to build brands who also didn't know what branding was. So that as I said, it opened up this world, and I became obsessed with brand strategy. I created frameworks to build brands, incorporating brand strategy at first, and then completely focused on brand strategy so that designs were separate. They were a small part of what I did, to the point where I eventually let go of design as well and focus fully on strategy. Today, that's exactly what I do. I teach those frameworks to professional brand builders, entrepreneurs, how to build brands, not by putting together a logo on a website, by looking at it strategically, looking at who their audience is, who their competitors are, how they're going to be different, and then wrapping that up in a way that's compelling to their audience so that their audience chooses them over their competitors. And ultimately, that's what branding is all about.
Okay, so we're going to talk about brand strategy in a while, but so let's use some branding language. You've already said this, but maybe we can make it more shorter. So what is your brand purpose? What actually you want to change through the Brand Master Academy or the Brand Master podcasts or the Brand Master Academy programs?
Yeah, I want to close that gap. That gap is huge, and there is a disservice in the market, a disservice from the service providers who don't fully understand what they're selling, and a disservice from the client side who don't fully understand what they're buying. So in closing that gap, it's a win-win because the service providers are providing a higher level of service for which they're charging more for. And the entrepreneur is getting a better level of service and they understand what it is they're buying. And ultimately, that then helps those businesses to be more relevant and meaningful to the people that they are trying to help.
All right. Okay. But, let's follow this. Do you think every company should start with this, with the purpose, with this reason why they exist beyond making money, with the why? And why I'm asking this, because some experts in Poland say that the reason to exist beyond making money is not needed at the start. You can think about it later, or that the reason is closely related to this, to solving social problems. And actually, I do not agree with both, but I would like to know what you think about it.
Yeah, look, there's been a lot written about brand purpose, and certainly since Start with Why by Simon Sinek back in 2009, he had a big impact on what brand purpose is. When I speak to my clients or I talk to my students, I make it clear that although the purpose of the brand as to why the brand exists beyond money is important, it is secondary to the primary reason that a brand is in business. Okay, so a brand is in business to serve the clients. And in order to deliver what they have to offer, they need to be crystal clear on who the audience is. They need to be crystal clear on what that audience already has as an option in the market, i.e. their competitors. And then they need to be crystal clear on how they're going to provide their services in a way that is different to their competitors. So that is the positioning trifecta. You have the audience, the competitors, and the position. Now, if you don't have a product or a service that a segment of the market wants, then the purpose of your brand means nothing. You can have a purpose that, the reason we exist beyond money is to help 1 million entrepreneurs to grow their businesses, as a vague example. But if you don't have a compelling offer, if you don't have a product or a service that a segment of the market wants or needs, then your purpose means absolutely nothing. It's not the purpose that grows the business or the brand. That purpose is secondary. We connect first by scratching the itch of what's in it for me. And that's how consumers make decisions. They don't make decisions based on what the logo looks like or what the website looks like. They look at what businesses are offering, what other businesses are offering, i.e. their competitors, and they weigh up, well, where's the value for me? What experience am I going to be taking on? And what is the outcome at the end of that? And that's how we make our decisions. We make our decisions based on the meaning that brands provide us and what they tell us about what they're going to give us, what experience they're going to bring us through, and what outcome we're going to achieve. And how they do that is super important. The verbal identity they use, so the attributes that they use in their language, in their personality, in their tone of voice, these all resonate with us on a personal level because we communicate with people through attributes. We make connections with people through attributes. Whether or not I like you or you like me, that's dependent on the way we speak, the personality, the attributes that we display, the interests that we have. We can have 10 people in a room and you can connect with one person a lot more than the other 9 people because of the attributes they use, because of the way they speak, because of what they speak about. So when we build our brands, when we build our businesses, we need to first start with the consumer. Who is it that we're trying to help? And why should they listen to us? What reason are we going to give them to choose us over those competitors that are out there in the market? And that is the primary reason that they will choose us over them. From that point, we can look at purpose, we can look at our vision. It should all be done in and around the same process, and that is what I teach through the frameworks. But if you don't have a crystal clear and compelling reason, a product or a service that a segment of the market wants or needs, then the purpose doesn't matter.
And we should also, I think, mention that it affects also employees, so the people inside the company, so they understand why they are coming to the and they're doing for 8 hours what they're doing.
Yeah, and that is to follow up on what I said. When I talk about the purpose counts for nothing, that's only to the point where it counts for nothing unless you have these ducks in a row first. Once you do have those ducks in a row, and once you have what the market wants or needs, and you're communicating to them in a way that resonates with them, then you're able to step back and look and go, okay, what is it that we're trying to build here? What differences? What difference are we making in the lives of our audience? And how can we best deliver that? How can we instill what we do and our belief in what we do into the fabric of the company? And that's where company culture and employee branding comes into it. And that's where the brand purpose and the internal brand becomes very important.
Okay, so I think we are now in something called brand strategy. So maybe if you can explain to the listeners, what is actually brand strategy?
Yeah, so brand strategy, just in the most simple terms, is the method for the way you develop your brand so that you can put that brand out there into the marketplace. Essentially, it's a plan of how we're going to communicate with our audience, what we're going to say to them, and how we're going to position our value so that they see us as the most obvious choice. So one of the biggest mistakes I see within let's call it branding, marketing, and this goes back to the education gap that I spoke of before. It's so easy to create a business today, and most people who create a business don't have any knowledge of marketing. They don't have any knowledge of branding, and a little knowledge can sometimes be dangerous. And one of the most common mistakes I see is that an entrepreneur has an idea for a business, and it might be a great idea. It might be exactly what the market needs, but they believe that they need to build a brand, and they go out and get themselves a logo and a website, and then from that point they believe they have a brand. They might then go on to Facebook and buy some ads to direct traffic to their website. And the belief there is that if we get people to come to our website, they'll see our logo, they'll see our website, they'll see our services, and then that's enough to sell our products and services. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't, just having a logo and a website and directing traffic to a website, that's not marketing, that's not building a business, that's not branding. You absolutely need to be crystal clear on that segment of the market that you are speaking to, because if somebody comes to your website, they need to self-identify with the messages that you're putting out there. You need to be so specific in the messages that you put out there that when they read them, they feel, that's me. They're talking to me. They're talking about my problems. They're talking about the outcome that I need. And they're talking to me in a way that makes me feel that they're not talking to everybody else. They're talking specifically to me. And that's where most entrepreneurs and business owners, they make that mistake. They don't get crystal clear on the segment of the market that they want to target. And as we all know, If you try to speak to everybody, you end up speaking to nobody because your message gets diluted. You know, if somebody puts an ad out there for small businesses, even though I have a small business, I don't self-identify with it because I don't feel that they're talking directly to me. And that is true for any segment of the market out there. If your targeting is too broad and you're trying to communicate with a really broad market, they're not going to self-identify with that. They're not going to feel like you're talking directly to them, and you're not going to be able to be specific enough with your messaging and the exact kind of challenges that they have, the exact kind of outcomes that they want, to make them feel like this is for them. This is the obvious choice for them, and you are the brand or the business that can help them to get to where they want to go. So that is probably the biggest mistake that I see in believing that a brand is the visuals and the website, and that's all you need to get going. No, it's not. Your logo, your website, it's built around the brand, and your brand is built through the strategy, starting with who the audience is, who the competitors are, why you're different, and how you're going to communicate that difference to the market.
Okay, but we can talk about the fundamentals of the brand strategy, and there is so many concepts. Brand plus something, brand purpose, brand vision. This is from one of your videos. Brand purpose, brand vision, brand mission, brand values, brand positioning, brand personality, voice, story, heritage, and so on.
You've been studying this.
Yes, every day. And so what I wonder is, do we need them all? Because what I see is that entrepreneurs struggle to understand them, and if they do not understand them, they are afraid to act when they are not sure if they understand them clearly. And I think people do not know actually where to start or how to combine all these elements.
And that's perfectly normal because, let's say, for example, I wanted to get into car racing. Now, I know nothing about car racing. I've just randomly picked that. Now, before I can even think about winning a race, I have to first understand the fundamentals of car racing. I need a car. I need a car that has 4 wheels and an engine and hopefully a steering wheel. Now, these are the very basics of racing a car. And likewise with an entrepreneur getting into the market, they need to think about their business and their brand in the exact same way. They need to know the fundamentals first. And without those fundamentals, they can never think about winning a race. But once you have those fundamentals down, once you know that you need the 4 wheels and the engine and the steering wheel, and you go out and get that, then what you try to do is you try to find a way to improve your performance. So your first race, you might finish dead last. So what you might do is you might go back into the garage and you might find better ways to improve your car. And that's when you start to add more detail to what you're doing. So you might add a spoiler to the chassis. You might add some kind of performance enhancer into the engine. You can tell I know nothing about car racing because I'm just plucking random things out here. But it's probably good that I've picked an area that I know nothing about, because it is the exact same principle. You might not know what brand storytelling is when you start out, but you need to know the fundamentals of branding and brand strategy before you can think about entering a race. And this is where most business owners and entrepreneurs get it wrong. They want to enter car racing and they don't understand the fundamentals of the 4 wheels, the engine, and the steering wheel. So I totally get that when it comes to building a brand, it can be very confusing where to look, where to start in terms of, as you said, your purpose, your vision, your mission, your values, your differentiation strategy, your competitive analysis, your audience research, your personality, your messaging, your storytelling, your visual identity. These are all just keywords and elements of branding and marketing that if you're serious about building a brand, you just need to learn these things over time. You need to learn where the piece of the puzzle fits. And the more you take the time to immerse yourself in what you're doing, which is building a brand, the more you're going to understand how can you increase performance so you have that chance of winning the race.
Okay. But actually, I think actually you should only know, I guess you can understand the definitions and all these concepts, but it's all about the questions. As you said before, who we are, what we do, and why does it matter? And what I think the brand strategy is answering the most important, or the questions, just the questions. I don't know if you agree with that, because sometimes I see that entrepreneurs, when they see this concept or all these definitions, and there is so many experts and so many definitions, so it's and somehow a lot of noise actually created by experts. We have different definitions of what brand is or branding is. Some people say that the branding is a part of marketing. Some say that the branding is not a part of marketing. And okay, and there's a lot of noise. So I think for the entrepreneurs, it's much easier just to understand the basic and the most important questions they have to answer. I don't know if you agree with that, because what I would like to ask you is, do you think that people and entrepreneurs can build brands independently? Because what I think about the startups, about super small companies that cannot afford to hire the best expert on the market or the best agency. So do you think that do you believe that they can do it by themselves?
I absolutely do. And you know, I think it's the duty of any entrepreneur to understand brand building without a shadow of a doubt. Now, long term, you might outsource brand building. You might bring somebody in to manage your brand, but you cannot outsource the understanding and the fundamentals of building your brand. You simply cannot, because at the end of the day, if you're building a business, then not only do you need to understand how to deliver your product or service to your audience, you need to understand how to communicate your product or your service to your audience. You cannot outsource the understanding of that communication. Now, when it comes to the intricacies and the specifics and the processes of building a brand, yes, that's where I believe professional brand builders can help to come in and help you to build that brand from the ground up. But once they hand over those brand guidelines to you, as in, you know, what your brand means, the specific audience personas that you're going to target, the messages that you're going to put out into the market, the storytelling frameworks you're going to use, that's simply a document to guide the management of the brand. Now, if entrepreneurs simply take that and put it into a drawer, then, you know, what's the point in building a brand in the first place? You really need to adopt, you know, you need to embrace what's going on with your brand and the communication of, you know, putting your messages out there into the market. When it comes to building that brand, yes, I 100% believe that questions are our most valuable tool, because you don't need a degree to answer basic questions. And I think we can complicate things with keywords. And you are right, marketing, branding, it's probably the only industry where you can have top experts in the field completely disagree on the meaning of what they're doing. It's crazy. And I believe that there are a few fundamental reasons for that. I believe that marketing as it was taught in universities 40 years ago hasn't changed much. And they taught branding as a subset of marketing, whereas today branding has evolved into this overarching discipline that governs everything from marketing to business decisions and everywhere in between. So I believe that that's one part of it. Then another part is that you have, you know, the marketing team and the branding team, who are all vying for the same goal. They're all trying to achieve the same goal, but they're doing it in different ways. And then, of course, at the end of the day, this is a creative field. So you have all these creative minds coining these different terms that essentially all mean the same thing. So for entrepreneurs getting into the market, trying to understand marketing and branding, I understand that it can be an absolute maze of confusion. And when you see all these keywords and you're like, where does this piece go? Where does that piece go? And that's exactly what happened to me when I dove into the field of branding. But I became so obsessed that I put all of the pieces together and I started to realize, okay, so these 3 or 4 keywords, they're actually the exact same thing. People are just confusing them and they think they're different, but they're not. These 3 or 4 sections over here, they're actually the exact same thing. So when you're able to distill them into the fundamental aspects, there really aren't too many really important factors that need to be considered. But from a brand builder's perspective, those who are dealing with clients on a day-to-day basis, you don't need to confuse your customers and your entrepreneurs with keywords. In fact, I teach that what you want to do when building a brand with your clients are to strip out the keywords, because there are a lot of preconceived ideas when it comes to branding. And as I said before, a little knowledge can be very dangerous. So if you go in there with your clients and you start to use keywords like brand purpose, brand vision, brand mission, brand positioning, you might find that your entrepreneur, your client will be like, I know this already. I've done this before. We've done that already. We have our purpose statement. Let's just move on to the next part. And that's where I believe questions asked in a very, very specific way, devoid of any keywords, can really help your client get to the root of what they're doing and why they're doing it. So just basic questions in and around, okay, so who are you trying to help? You're not diving into keywords like who's your buyer persona. It's like, who are you trying to help? Why are you trying to help them specifically? Why are you more relevant to them than other players in the market? What meaning are you going to give them to choose you over your competitors? So in asking questions like this, where you're stripping out all of those keywords, your clients and those entrepreneurs, they're not putting up these boundaries of, I know this already. They're just asking basic questions. And that's where you really get to the bottom of exactly who it is that you're trying to help, exactly how you're going to be different from all the other competitors in the marketplace. And that's really where brand building is at its purest, in asking those fundamental questions and involving your client in extracting the right answers so that they feel that they're part of the brand building process and they're invested in that brand. Once you've developed that, they believe in the brand because they've been part of the brand building process.
Okay, I love your answer. Wonderful, thank you. I do believe that. I think you believe that the brand strategy is the key to success. But what would you say to companies that do not have a brand strategy but are growing and therefore the management says that they do not need it? I've met lots of companies that have a wonderful product and they are growing, but there is no brand strategy at all.
And I totally get that, because there are businesses out there that succeed or find some level of success, not because they don't have a brand, it's in spite of the fact that they don't have a brand. So they have come to the market with a very specific product or service at the right time for the right type of audience, and those key factors have aligned. So, and this is what I came back to before about brand purpose. At the end of the day, if you don't have a compelling offer to a market segment who wants or need what you have, then your purpose means nothing. But if you do have that compelling offer because that's what the audience does. They ask the question, what's in it for me? And there are so many businesses out there who have achieved a level of success without having a brand. What I would say to businesses like that is that although the revenue that you are building through your success is being banked in your financial institution, the revenue of your brand equity is not being banked, because you have not built a brand in which to store that equity. So essentially, you don't have a bank account for your brand. So there is no ongoing consistency with how the brand is being communicated. There's no promise out there in the marketplace. There's nothing for the audience to kind of put their finger on and go, that's what they're about. That's that's what they that's the problem that they solve, or so those who have had a nominal level of success, I would say congratulations first and foremost, because it is one of the hardest things to do in business and branding, is to achieve that initial level of success. Now you are at a distinct advantage, because unlike other startups starting off, you now have revenue coming in, and chances are you have a budget there to actually invest in your brand. And if you want to build something long term, then you need somewhere to store that equity. So I would suggest that you get crystal clear on exactly who your audience is, because although you're communicating well and the market out there is responding to your offer, maybe there are 2 or 3 more market segments out there that want or need what you have, but you're not communicating to them in a way that's compelling. And if you understand those segments a little bit more, maybe you can double or triple your revenues. And then what about the offer that you're putting out there into the marketplace? What makes you so good compared to your competitors? Why is this audience choosing you over your competitors? And maybe you can talk to that audience so that they can tell you in more specifics what appealed to you so well, so you can really juice up your marketing, you can juice up your messaging, and you can put that message, you can mobilize that message out there into the marketplace, so that these few consumers, these few customers that have come in front of you and who have chosen you, you now know the reason that they've chosen you, and you can communicate that to the rest of the market as to this compelling offer that you have. So getting crystal clear on who your audience is and why you're different from your competitors, I mean, that is nothing but helpful. If you have not done that to this point and you have a nominal level of success, then I would suggest to you that if you go back and invest in your brand, you can multiply your revenues and you can really start to bank that equity.
Okay, thank you in the name of these companies. Before we finish, if you would, I would like to invite people, the audience, to your channels. So if you can say with your own words where we can follow you.
Yeah, so brandmasteracademy.com is where you'll find my brand house, as I like to call it, where the brand lives. And you'll be able to be directed to the blog, to the YouTube channel, to the podcast. We've got some great guests on there. So, but if you're on YouTube, just search brandmasteracademy.com. We've got hundreds and hundreds of videos that will help you dive deep into what all of these concepts are, and including all of the keywords that we've spoken about to help shine a light on all of that. And yeah, there's once you go onto the website, there's a pro brand strategy blueprint that will help you get started on understanding the fundamentals of brand strategy. And if you think about the car racing analogy before, if you're new to all of this will give you the 4 wheels, the engine, and the steering wheel that you need to know when getting into brand.
Sorry, I have to ask this. It's getting more difficult for you now because you've covered most of the topics on brand and branding. Do you struggle to find new ideas for the videos, or they're going? Okay.
There was a point where all of the fundamental pieces of the puzzle that I wanted to that I needed to know about when I first started out in branding, all the books that I read. I had 2 or 3 videos on most topics, but what I've learned over time is that every topic breaks off into 10 subtopics, and those subtopics break off into more. So, and there are always things, and I'm always learning as well, like you as well, because you just continue to learn, and that's a philosophy of mine. As much as I know, the more I learn, the more I know I don't know. And every book I read, every every interview I do with a brand master, they all open up these different avenues of maybe there's something else I need to know about this, and that's when I start to dive deeper. So I'm a student of the industry, and I think I always will be, and because of that, there are never a shortage of ideas and topics to create content.
And you can always find new ways to explain all these.
Absolutely, there are different perspectives,
concepts.
different ideas. Exactly.
Okay, thank you so much, Stephen, for sharing your knowledge and inspiration with Polish entrepreneurs, marketers, and students as well. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
It was an absolute pleasure of mine as well, Lucas. Thank you.